There we go.
Thank you.
And when they had the children outside of the city.
Yeah, it's only a gym.
Although technically,
Where they wanted to, you know what I mean, like they would have gone.
but none of these ones are set up. You can't say it's
A early like in February, so
She came as a
I just went the only trick is
No, he done it.
yeah, but she came.
Every now and then I like that.
Oh,
I think of somebody, I don't know their
it
name.
is, no, she came, she
Okay, Sandy.
She came in with
Her daughter.
you know what I mean, and I'm like,
She's around between me and my kids.
there you go.
Sandy's kids are, you know.
We all
Did everybody sign in? Thank you.
That's right, you told me that, right?
We'll see. It's gonna be weird.
Oh, you got it. You got it.
I think I'm fine. It looks really good. So you're gonna get Bruce lined up. I think there's no one meeting, but I wanted to give everybody a chance to like go through
My wife is texting me, so I'm
She's in the spirit.
I can float it.
You know what I think like with more than anything, you drink like a water bottle.
Oh, yeah.
And then you
Crickle
just give
is.
it that.
Oh, yeah.
He'll play with that for like 17 days straight until, we let him play with it until like he drinks full off and then he starts to go at it and then that's bad for him, so. But it costs me something because I already drank the water.
It's kind of like a kid likes the cardboard box.
I have.
Yeah.
97 pounds. He looks like a big fluffy black lab. 50% people eat an pound, 50% I'm short of the point.
Okay.
I have another one that's a monster making
Oh.
87% carbs. Pretty much. Yeah, and that's got probably not too long. He's like an American Shepherd, and then a bunch of fast dog type things. So he is right at the intelligent. It's hard to deal with.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, he's basically the only.
Smart dog.
Yeah.
Smart dog.
He's in charge.
No, they actually donate the meat to, they come
Less
up
than.
with
No,
medical
I
funds.
don't think so.
No? They donate all of those. They're related to the nights up here in Bowers. They can go on that.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge flag.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, just take a roll call, please.
Ms. Cook? Here. Ms. Falcone? Ms. Haslett?
Here.
Ms. Kunkel?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Flinsky?
Here.
Mrs. Stout?
Here.
Councilman Stout and Councilman Barcone are not gonna be here tonight. Did everybody get a chance to look over the minutes from October 9th and October 23rd? Any questions? Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much. I feel like I did that really slowly. Sorry. Communications.
The first communication on tonight's agenda is from TCOC, thanking the borough as they have sent out other thank yous each and every year. They also sent out a thank you to our staff in Public Works, Water, Sewer. So they just wanted to show their appreciation for our support and thanking us for the continued support, especially this year with the demands of changing the date.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, it was interesting to at least see it happen once if it had to, because refresh everybody's memory about how to do it.
And then the second communication is regarding an email received from the Borough of Albertus. They requested 30 barricades for their Halloween parade, and as everyone knows, it's a newer parade. So we were happy to offer our barricades, and they returned them in good condition. So hopefully it made a difference for their parade as well.
Just to highlight how hard these things are to put on, they called like last minute and was like, hey, somebody was supposed to bring 30 barricades and they're not, can we borrow yours? You know?
Oh, wow.
And those are the only two communications.
Yeah, you're up.
For the report, we'll just go, as with the jump on the parade area, it was on a Sunday. It's gotta be the first Sunday parade that I remember. But there was a lot more people there than what I anticipated would be there. It seemed like a good turnout. And I gotta give it to them, Topton was clean within an hour after that parade. You couldn't tell there was a parade here, so well done, everybody. That's all I got.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job. I mean, I was here when they made the call and they were crushed to have to, like, or well, when they told us about it at least, they were crushed to have to do it, and then they had to go around and call everybody, and you lose the school bands on a Sunday, you lose these people had to go there and that is, but I'm glad to hear that, you know, it seemed like it got a positive response from everybody who was here. Cool. Do you not have a member of Fleetwood tonight?
We were not notified that they would not be in attendance.
All right, so we'll just hold out, and if they come in, jump back to that. Hearing of visitors, anybody want to talk? No, that's not. Okay. Then the solicitor, please.
Okay, council had a meeting with Attorney Boland from our office. I understand that he answered quite a few of your questions regarding the process. He advised me that it was a good meeting. Is there any need for an executive session on it? I don't have anything to report.
Not on that meeting, no, we didn't really discuss any specifics of anything, we just kinda got to know each other, I think.
Yeah, there, I don't have anything further to report. He wasn't in the office today, he was out of town today. The next item I have is the amendment to the traffic and parking ordinance. At the October 9th meeting, you had asked me to research what would be needed to restrict parking on borough streets. I looked at the Pennsylvania Vehicle Code to ensure that the borough would take any steps needed to have enforcement hold up in court in the event that there was a parking ticket issued and that it would be appealed. Specifically, section 6109A of the Vehicle Code allows municipalities to regulate parking, standing, stopping, and speeds on borough streets. But it does require a specific ordinance for enforcement, and I sent all of you the ordinance section, or the statute section, saying that you need an ordinance to enforce. So if the council would want to have no parking signs placed at locations in the borough and have them be enforceable by the police department, you would need to adopt an ordinance. It would be an amendment to the traffic and parking ordinance, in your codification. You would need to prepare for me a list of streets on which, and sides of streets, and from what intersection to what intersection you would want a no parking sign, and we would be authorized to prepare and advertise an ordinance.
So there is already an ordinance in place.
Right, but this would be an amendment to add certain signs at certain streets.
Aren't there some no parking in town already, like on Hefner Street?
There are some no parking signs, and there is an ordinance in place. It's just if you want to add any,
Okay,
you have
if
to
you
read
have.
the ordinance.
Yeah,
So,
it's, you're beefing it up.
yeah,
basically.
well, my understanding is we're not making no parking, we're just putting limits on who can park there based on size of.
Yeah, that's more, I was gonna ask two things.
Which you can also do. There are ordinances in other municipalities that, for example, limit, commercial vehicles over a certain weight.
Which is
or
what our ordinance already has,
or limit-
it just says we have to have signs up.
Right, or limit the parking of boats, trailers, or recreational vehicles to 24 hours or 48 hours for loading and unloading, and then they have to be placed on private property.
And we did double check with LTAP, and we do not need their permission to put signs up. We do not need PennDOT's permission.
Right, not for borough
No.
streets, you wouldn't
Not
need
borough streets,
PennDOT
yeah.
permission.
Well, even if it's a PennDOT street. According to what he said.
Oh, really?
I'll share this with you.
Okay, yeah, if you can
My
share that.
understanding was that basically White's was off limits.
Yeah, that's always been my
Yeah, it says
understanding. as well.
local authorities may install, revise, or remove the following devices, and department approval is not required, and that includes stopping, standing, and parking signs.
Right, yeah, I would want that in the file.
Even if it's a state route.
Yeah, if we
It's
would,
Title 67, Section 212.5.
okay,
He
that
sent me a
This is
bunch of
'cause
stuff,
of the
and how there's no requirements.
They're good for that.
Yeah, and how there's no requirements on how far apart the signs are, just that they're viewable.
right, I
Right.
think
It's
that's.
kind of subject to,
Yeah, I think the distance apart is more for the speed limit signs, but yeah, it sounds like it's citing to a section of the Pennsylvania Code. And as long as I had that memo in the file, I'd be glad to.
I'll forward it to you, and you
Sure.
so you have it.
That can- So then our next steps at this point would be,
If council wants to, have certain, no parking or parking limitations, send me what those limitations would be and where you want to put them. And we can either prepare an ordinance draft for review at the next meeting, or, authorization to advertise for the December council meeting. Just has to be advertised once, and a freestanding ordinance.
alright, then we'll put that together.
Do we have any thoughts, just since we're talking about it,
Sure.
on what streets we wanna apply it to? I mean, obviously not, but.
Theoretically, all of them.
But mainly the emergency, excuse me, the emergency.
Yeah, I would
would
put that,
probably
the
be
main
first.
routes, going off of what our snow emergency route would be the start if you wanted to.
That's a lot of signs.
Well,
Yeah,
that's what we need to find out what the sign, if you're saying there's no limitation on how far apart they are, then technically one on one side of the borough and one on the other side of the borough are within those regulations.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd wanna put it one within every block to give.
Yeah, I mean, you wanna,
Yeah.
it's kind of ridiculous to have somebody ride all the way
It
out
just
to the edge
says,
of the
should be
borough.
based on legibility and sign orientation. So that there's no definitive guidance, the overriding requirement is that the signs must be placed so that drivers can reasonably expect it to conform to the restriction. So probably, at the very least, one every block. That's a lot of blocks.
And that's a lot of funding, so
Yeah, that's a
we
lot
have
of
to
time.
consider that with the budget.
And
And
time,
PA1 calls and time for staff.
yeah. unless they can be added to an existing signpost.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah, I mean, if
Well,
they
we
I
can
mean,
be,
you still gotta go around and put them up, you
Yeah.
don't have to dig a hole now.
if they can be at a height,
Yeah,
they need to be
could you-
visible to the average driver.
Yeah. Could you put them under the snow emergency route signs?
Right underneath it.
That's not a bad idea.
I don't know. I don't know, yeah. I don't know if the height.
Right. And how big it is.
Are we gonna say the width of the vehicle?
I don't know. Right now, it only says weight.
Right, but we're talking about changing it.
I understand that. I'm saying that's what it says now.
Yeah.
But any vehicle, you're not gonna find a vehicle wider than a regular vehicle that weighs more than 5,000 pounds, which is what it currently says.
So you're thinking all we need to do is the signage?
I mean, to me, the ordinance reads right now that we could just put up a sign, but I'm not an attorney, so.
Yeah, I would want to put it in the blocks where you,
Well, I think what she's saying is what
borough-wide.
we're enforcing is already on the books.
Mhm.
That the vehicle it's wide, yeah, but it's already breaking ordinance by being that heavy,
Right, and I think that we would need to put it,
and most would be.
yeah, I mean, I think that we would need to put I think there would need to be signs put up, to put individuals on and drivers on notice as to what the parking restriction should be.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's what the ordinance says now, that we have to have sign.
Does that include alleys?
Alleyways, I don't think are wide enough in the first place because it's covered by the fact that you can't block traffic, correct?
Right.
Like you can't park in a way that.
It's parked there quite often.
Yes.
What-
Blocks like
what is
three-quarters
that?
of the.
Commercial vehicles
Commercial vehicle?
in the alley, a lot.
Which alleyway?
The one,
There's no
Behind
reason to
home.
sign
Mhm.
yes.
That's what,
Fine.
behind home, it's the same
Oh,
Mhm.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the same vehicle that
Oh,
sparked this discussion.
It is.
Alright, I don't mean to pick on anybody, but
Right,
it
right.
brings things to light and you're like, okay, that's a problem and we can't let it happen.
All weekend.
Okay.
We have signs around, wait and. You know what I mean?
We can
There's a-
check
there's a
the,
bunch
I mean,
of
that's the
other-
first step, obviously, yeah, if we have signs that cover this already and we just don't have them up, then that's,
Well, there's some that aren't up, I can't say they're on every block or every street.
Well, there are restrictions on the alley behind the bank that runs from home.
Dale, you got any thoughts on this? Since you guys have to enforce it or write the tickets at least?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my first question, are the signs actually required?
That's what I was
Yes.
wondering too, because we have.
According to the ordinance.
Yeah, I believe that the signs are required. If you're going to enforce, no parking, you need signage.
I'm talking about, we're talking about no parking for commercial vehicles type stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
but
that's
according,
required that sign should be required for that?
Mhm. That's what our
I-
current ordinance says.
Yeah, I
Is that
believe,
in the ordinance that the sign is
Yeah.
required? Okay.
yeah, I believe
Because
signage is
Fleetwood,
required.
the reason I bring that is because Fleetwood has a large vehicle ordinance, but I don't believe it's posted. But now the orders can be written differently too, though,
Mhm.
so that's what
So
my
a
question.
far less expensive version would be to change the ordinance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, I think it might be better, I mean, why don't I do this? I obviously have access to Fleetwood's ordinances, so why don't I look at what Fleetwood's ordinance is, since it's the same agency, yours enforcing, it would be a lot easier if we simply adopted Fleetwood's ordinance. That would be an easier way and cleaner and cheaper, and if it's in a way that doesn't require signage, all the better.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, have you had any experience with prosecutions under this ordinance?
Typically for us, it's, if we have the issue, we go out and make contact, and that usually solves the problem. I don't know if we've ever had to actually cite anybody under it. Most people are cooperative.
Yeah.
But I know we have stuff for trailers, for campers, like you're allowed to park on the streets, I think it's 24 hours.
Yeah.
To load and unload, and it has to be moved. So we don't normally have, we have the ordinance because we had probably similar to what you guys are having up here, but we had some people that drove tractor trailers, and they would come in and park on Pearl Street, and it was an absolute mess. That's what kind of sparked the
Right.
whole
it's similar to what's happening here, it's a professional vehicle. It's just-
Right.
Right, too large for a
You can't get around it without going over the yellow.
Yeah, we had people parking trucks and trailers on side streets, so I get it, it's a mess. But I don't think, I don't believe that we have ours posted, so the ordinance may read a little differently.
Let's look at
Yeah,
the
I'd
Fleetwood
definitely
ordinance.
specs.
Don't hold me to that, I'm just guessing,
No,
hopefully
no.
I don't open a can of worms.
Yeah. Let me have a look, and all I've gotta do is walk over to the next office over, so,
Right.
and get a copy of it, so, I think that's the easiest thing to do, and I'll have a report on it for the next meeting, you'll get something between meetings.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. All right, then, is that all for you, John?
That's all I have unless council has any questions.
All right, then, jump back to Dale.
Thank you, Ethan. All right, activity recap for October for Topton Borough, 879 patrol miles. We handled 23 incidents, 0 crashes, issued 15 traffic citations, 15 hours worth of traffic checks. The officers did 26 vehicle stops, 2 hours of follow-up criminal time, and 2 hours of court time. Activities, we had a business that somebody came in and made a purchase, they used counterfeit money. We have no cameras, we have no leads for that. Officers were at the Borough Park for juveniles playing loud music and being disruptive. We ID'd the juveniles, gave them a warning regarding their behavior, no charges were filed, and that was the last time. That was back on the 24th, I don't think we had any issues since. From what I understand, they were pretty cooperative with us. And on the 31st, we had another weapons offense where someone, a prohibited person, attempted to purchase a firearm at the handgun. Charges were filed for that. Citation breakdown, 9 for parking, 3 for speeding, 2 for school zone violations, and 1 obedience to traffic control devices. Personnel for us, Officer Michael Quinn resigned from the court position for personal reasons effective 10/16. Tonight, just at the borough meeting, Officer Angela Arndt was promoted to corporal. She was, the list was still good from when we did the promotional interviews and stuff, still within that year. So under civil service, I was able to promote her since she was number 3. And we also approved to hire another part-time officer. The other thing I have is our equipment. We're still waiting for a new Explorer. I'm hoping to be here this week. And I'm going to be purchasing 2 used portable radios. They're the same radios we have now from another department for $1,000 each. Right now they're currently going for about $8,000 per unit. So I got a little bit of a discount there. And I also bought 4 used tasers for backups for us. Sometimes we run out, depending on how many guys we have working, from Kutztown PD. So they're the same tasers, but I got them for $25 each day work. Also, the Halloween parade, I don't know if you guys talked about it or not, but we had it on Sunday instead of Saturday, and we didn't have any reported issues to us. That's all I have. Anybody have any questions?
The criminal issues were the purchase of the handgun, attempted purchase,
Correct.
and was there one other criminal?
Counterfeit money out of business, yeah. And then a disorderly conduct with some juveniles. I think were just being juveniles, but they didn't give us any problems, and we talked to them all. I don't think we've been back since.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Does anybody have anything else for me?
You wanna leave us, don't you?
I have one more meeting I'd like to try to get to. I'm the only guy, so. Can only be.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're good. Anybody have anything for me, to be honest? No? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, take care.
Have a good holiday.
Thank you, you as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Stacy.
I have a short report because mainly, the past month, I've been working on the budget and getting numbers to council. The Halloween parade numbers will be finalized for the next meeting. I'll give you what we used and what will be applied to that line item in the 2023 budget. We didn't obviously have the light because it was a daytime parade, so that will be a cost savings. The MS4 report was reviewed, and Emily did a great job from where I sit, and that was submitted on time, like Charlie reported last month. I am also completing the 2024 insurance applications for all of our liability, whether it's, buildings or equipment or vehicles. So that's being done with Weisschantz to then get quotes for coverages for 2024. And also for 2024, going through all the compliance that needs to be addressed with submitting forms for our benefits, and also for getting packets together for the employees for open enrollment. Any questions?
Packets ready for open enrollment?
Open enrollment for healthcare, so that's medical, dental, vision. Any changes, also what they know that what their contribution is going to be out of their paycheck, every paycheck or every month or every year. And if they need to make any changes to what they currently have, they have until a certain date, which is December 15th, for us to then get to our providers to make those changes. Like if they want to drop or add something, if they're allowed.
Related to that, if I can for 1 minute. I see that your Benecon also handles HMO as in addition to PMO. PPO. And have any of the other alternate plans been looked at, categories of plans?
We are only provided with, through PIMIC, the PPO Capital Blue.
Okay, so the references to HMO possibility and whatnot does not apply to Topton?
Correct, not at this time.
Is there anything we need to do to have that apply, or?
I believe that's.
Yes, that's,
the tier that we're,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and that can be discussed in the future, yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions?
Okay. Mrs. Stout asked that I place on the agenda the, authorization or the first steps of discussing an item that then at the next meeting will be adopted. So the next item would be authorizing the advertisement of an ordinance to raise the tax rate from its current amounts, or to keep it the same or decrease it for 2024 real estate taxes.
Well, do we have a number, and are we going with?
I think the 1 mil is what's in the budget currently, and
Okay.
I don't think we have a choice, but, cause it was initially put into the first December meeting, because that's when we did it last year. But if we do that, then we have to come Christmas Day and adopt it, so that's why I asked for it to be moved up to this meeting. Cause we pretty much discussed it, so if we're all in agreement,
did,
then
and
we should get the ball rolling.
I agree when you say that. I don't really see that much choice.
I mean,
I think there's areas that can be cut without doing any harm. I don't see, we need to go up 1 mil.
Do you have specifics?
I'm sure.
Okay, wait, please speak to it.
Is there a point on the agenda for that?
Just
No,
general
but
budget.
this is what we're,
it.
this is what we're discussing.
Yes.
Here somewhere. Park activities, I think could be cut probably back 10 to 11,000. The truck bed, looking for used instead of new. On a truck, we're looking at keeping maybe 5 years. I think new is probably extravagant. We could probably cut 8,000 there. The planning comprehensive plan, we don't know yet which way we're going, that would be 5,800.
But it could be more if we don't go with that also, you never know, so.
So I'm gonna put it in the first one, showed plus 2,000, I'm not sure why, question on that. We had contingency funds of 30,000, I think in 2 places, marked in yellow, but now I see it's not there anymore, so I don't know what happened to that, but I was thinking that was 60,000, 30,000 at least that we could
Well, whatever is in the budget that was, put on display is the budget that I was directed to put on display, so that is the most recent.
So okay, so the first spread that we had for the last meeting had contingency, so you put in the 30,000, at least one put marked in yellow, highlighted in yellow.
That was the first draft, that's not.
So I would not look at that one at this time, that is not the current budget. It's the one below that you have by your stack.
Okay. Tree maintenance, I think we could take out 10,000 easily. I don't see 20,000 necessary for that. There's some other.
Let me ask you, when you say these numbers, the truck bed in particular, you said you could save 8,000 there. Do you have a quote that you could save 8,000 there?
Someone I know who's very into all this stuff said that you can get a good truck bed from a junkyard quite inexpensive.
Does he know the specific truck bed that we need to buy?
No, the office would be finding that out.
Right, but okay, so my point would be that these are numbers that we're budgeting for, not necessarily numbers that we have to spend. If we can find a truck bed that suits Alex's needs and everything, that is a couple years old, and it comes in at less than the budgeted number, that's great. But we can't plan for that, because it needs to be done either way.
And a junkyard, it's, does anybody have one? Who's gonna go pull it?
Well, that's a question for a later date, because
Right.
when we go to
Kind of what I'm
get the
getting
truck
at.
bed, we can look to save a lot of money, and we may end up with a surplus from that line item, because we didn't have to spend it all, but we can't
Right.
plan for that.
Right.
We need that money there, because otherwise we can't do it either way.
Well, you're planning to take money out of the taxpayer's pocket during the highest inflation in 40 years, and people are really, a lot of them are hanging by a thread. And I worry about a lot of people in town. They're
So do I.
having a hard time. So I would rather not raise taxes if we can cut elsewhere. And
No, I understand that, I think the same
so
way.
these are some of the ideas, and I got tired of writing, and I didn't know how much discussion we were gonna have tonight from other people.
Sure,
There's more.
but when we set the budget, we have to plan for what has to be done. So, right, so you have to look at the highest cost on these things, because it has to be done. That truck won't be operational if we don't replace the truck bed. So if we can get a cheaper one, that's how we can save the taxpayers money, but we can't budget that way, because we need to replace that, because he needs that to do his job. And he keeps the sewer running for the whole town.
I know many items we put in high estimates so that we don't get a surprise.
Right.
But now we're talking about raising taxes, so
That's how it works.
now I'm.
We also have to remember that our expenses also, the borough's expenses also are getting hit with that inflation.
Everybody's feeling
Yes.
it, it's not,
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
And we haven't raised taxes since long before inflation started, back in COVID.
So I understand
We're behind
office
the gun.
expenses going up, I understand a number of expenses going up.
Well, fuel and electricity are two of the biggest ones, and we can't cut them. We can't cut them back.
I don't think any one of us wants to see the
Right.
taxes raised,
Right.
but it's
No.
inevitable.
It
is.
It's inevitable.
it is.
It's something that has.
And you have to
It
also
should have
remember,
actually been done last
It
year,
should have
to
been
not
done
have some
before,
issues
yeah.
and you also have
Or
to
something
remember,
like
we
we
have
had
a
this
big
year.
unknown that is coming our way, that we have no control, we have limited control over, and we have no idea what that is. So we have to have some excess, hopefully, a little bit of excess, that we over budget a little bit, so that we have some wiggle room if we need it.
I think there's a lot of wiggle room. And
But-
not the areas you're talking about, but the utilities, of course.
But for planning purposes, we can't go with our gut on, we could probably save 8K here. We need to know that that's gonna cost this much less, and then I can say, yeah, let's cut that money there, because we have a definite, that's the one we're buying, and it does cost this much less.
Well, perhaps the road crew or someone can check on that this week and see what they can find for use, and then we have a firm figure for our budget meeting.
The way we got to the number we got was because they went out of their way to
Yes.
find exactly a way to save us money.
Yeah.
This, at the beginning of this conversation, was a $55,000 expense in a new truck.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're already down to 14,000.
And we're gonna install the bed.
Right.
Right.
We're putting the bed on, taking the old one off and putting the new one on.
Right.
So they're going above and beyond to save us money.
Correct. Yes, they're doing everything.
There's
they
another
can.
8,000 savings, why wouldn't we take advantage of it?
That's
Because you don't know it's there.
because you don't know.
And if we can find it later, we'd love to find it later, but we can't plan for that now.
We also.
Without concrete numbers now,
You
we
have to
can't
have the
change these
money
things on the go.
there.
Right. We know what the bed's gonna cost because Alex went and got a quote for it, you know, or what?
Quote.
Quote, okay.
Yeah, written quote.
So
For a new one on a very old truck.
we
that
may
is-
be able to look around
Sure.
and find a cheaper version, but we have to plan for the one that we have solid numbers on.
And hope you don't need all the money,
Right.
and, but you have.
Because here's the
to
thing,
plan
taxes can go
behind
down too. If we find out at the end of this year that, oh my God, we have a surplus of $84,000, we can drop taxes by $1 million next year.
I'm curious what the surplus we had as of January
it.
first this year.
You can't planning, put money, invest as well.
Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt you.
I've not been able to do.
Not
Yeah, I
expecting
can't,
you
I
to have an
can't,
answer.
no, I do not, you'd have to, you know, you probably need to look at the treasurer's report that was reported for either end of December or beginning January.
There's also a lot of things that we budgeted for 2023, but the last, most recent graph, shows we spent nothing. So, does that money go over? Why do we need an additional?
Do you have an example to reference?
Page
Sometimes
number.
it's because it's something we only pay once a year and it may just not have been paid yet.
Yeah, might not be paid until December. I don't have one listed.
Okay. No, that's bad again.
And just keep in mind, we also have the well to deal with, and even most likely with the
And the
increases,
pipes,
we still are not gonna have enough to
the
cover.
pump station.
So we may very well, again, have to
Drains
move
on
some money from the
us.
general fund into the water fund.
Keep going with the audible.
Well, for the
Much more.
auditor, do we pay them once a year, professional?
That's
services?
correct, so RKL cannot complete the audit that they were going to complete this year and ask that our brand new auditor do 2 years.
Okay,
So we will not have an expenditure under the audit for the borough in 2023, but we'll have double for 2024.
so the,
They make that decision?
RKL? Yes.
Kathy, you should send them a bill for organizing all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, really.
No, that's the tax collector's audit, not the borough's audit. Thank you, Kathy.
Even still, no problem.
That's underway.
so the 18,250 that was budgeted for this year, and then nothing's being spent this year,
For what?
the professional services auditor.
Okay, but we're gonna
General
get
fund
twice
negotiation.
next year.
But we're gonna
get charged twice
Because they're doing 2 years next year.
So, we're showing 30,500 for next year.
Correct.
What happened to the 18,250 that was budgeted for this year, that we are not spending?
That's a budget, that isn't a checking account deposit. That's a budget,
We didn't spend it.
that's a budgeted amount.
So there's some extra money right there.
No,
No.
we're spending it next year when we have to do that.
No, we're spending 30,500.
Yes, which is double, because we're not paying that this year,
Right.
she had just explained that.
Yes, I heard her explain it, thanks, Monica. There's a number of items like that if you go through here, that there was something budgeted and not spent, so I don't know. What happened to that one? Okay.
Carol, this was part of my email asking everyone to organize their thoughts ahead of time. Because these decisions were gonna actually come up and we were gonna actually have
Got a
to take
little
action.
bogged down with it.
Well,
I did go through a lot of it.
okay, we all make our choices where we spend our time. But we can't sit here now and go, where is it, what am I thinking?
Aren't we
What are we
discussing
doing?
the comprehensive plan tonight?
A little bit, yeah, in a little while.
244 pages, right, okay.
So would you like to be, an authority on that or this?
So, professional services, CHP legal, 2,500 was
Zoning
budgeted,
hearing board, yes.
and nothing paid. But we have another 2,500 for next year, so what happened to this year's 2,500?
It wasn't spent. That's just the
So that's
budget.
money we still have left over that we can use next year, so.
That's not really how a budget should be thought of, in my opinion. It's not like all of the expenses are added up and saved in a checking account, and then if we don't spend that 2,500, it stays in that checking account. A budget is separate than funds on hand.
Yeah, there's also items in there that we went way over budget on.
Sure,
So
like the
they
traffic light.
balance each other out. You know, so we may be short on one thing, but we're ahead on another. That's the give and take of it.
And again,
It's a
something may be
budget.
set aside and not used, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you don't need to set it aside next year in case.
In
something
case
happens.
somebody
Legal
applies to the
fees, for
zoning hearing
example.
board
Glad we
for,
didn't have to spend any on legal fees, but we may have to next year.
Yeah, I don't see that we have any other choice. I don't wanna do it either. I mean, I'm gonna get hit kind of the hardest, being the newer development in the borough, but I don't see we have any way around it.
No, and you know, it,
And even
these
then,
bigger
there's,
increases is just it's a symptom of nobody ever doing it at a steady pace,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
incrementally in smaller amounts.
Yeah. If you can, you know, I mean, you can't see the future, you can't.
well, if you figure
know,
just
but-
how much inflation we've had in the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's going crazy.
Yeah, this isn't even gonna cover the amount of inflation from the last 4 years.
No.
I don't think any of us wanna do it, but I think we need to get it going, because it takes 2 meetings to put
Yeah.
it in place.
I
And
agree.
it has to be in place by December 31st.
So we have a meeting in 2 weeks. And then we have a meeting started December.
You
Yeah.
have the December 11th regular Borough Council meeting, and if you authorize it, the ordinance will be adopted that night.
We do have another meeting in 2 weeks if we choose to use it.
Correct.
you
In
know,
November.
In November. But we would need to have this advertised and ready for December 11th, so.
Yes.
I guess then we're looking for a motion to,
We are having another budget meeting this month that's been scheduled.
But we haven't decided whether we're using it yet.
but we always have 2 on the books that were advertised at the beginning of the year, the second and fourth Monday.
And
of
that's
every month.
throughout the year, not
So
just
we
the
don't-
budget, so.
Yeah, not just for the
Yeah.
budget, but we've been using that second meeting to solely discuss the budget, but.
I believe that a tax increase, advertising it, is worthy of having every council member here, and we're missing 2 tonight before we vote on it.
Well, your opinion is noted.
What if one can't make it next week? I mean, we can't just put it
We have
on
a quorum.
indefinitely.
We have a quorum.
Yeah, we have a quorum.
Yes, we do. I think this is a weighty
We
matter.
discussed this with all 7 as well, you know, at the last meeting.
Yeah.
So,
Did anybody come to you? You did send out the email. I'm just solely asking. a
I haven't
question.
had any,
That
no,
was
no, I'll be
Okay.
absolutely transparent, I haven't had any,
Okay.
private conversations with anybody that we're not discussing here, you know.
Thank you. That's why I asked.
Sure,
that.
yeah.
So nobody brought anything out.
You know, and then we're just looking for a motion to,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
So we would also need the detail to authorize to advertise
To-
at
An
what
increase
detail?
for 1 mil.
1 mil increase to what,
We're not going from 6.4 to 7.
6.4 to 7.4?
that would be the,
Suggested.
that's
That
what
was a
suggested.
question. That was a question for council.
I think, as pointed out, that this doesn't even really cover what we needed to.
Right.
This is not enough, it's just what we're, unfortunately,
$20,000 for tree maintenance?
again, Carol, this doesn't have to be spent.
Right.
And we need 120 for the well. 120,000.
That's in the budget?
Yeah, with a 120% increase on water and sewer that we can't do. So,
I thought we were doing it. For the commercial and
Carol,
industrial.
where are you in these
Commercial
meetings?
and industrial, you were raising the rates, yeah?
yes, but not 120%. Are,
You
you're
didn't say
not
the
okay with
percentage.
the tax increase, but you're okay with raising the water and sewer rates 120%?
You said we are vastly below, by more than 120%, what other communities have been charging. So based on your research in that area, yes, I was okay with it.
We have a motion
So
in a
going-
second, if we
okay.
can, we just need the details.
To raise the mill 1%. Or
To
one
raise
mil, I'm
one
sorry.
mill
No,
increase
one mil.
from 6.4 mils to 7.4
Correct,
mils to
yes.
prepare and advertise an ordinance for December 11th, 2023.
And I was gonna second that.
All those in agreement?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
All right, now the same thing with water and sewer.
Michelle, you wanna present what you found and what you calculated? I think it'll be very helpful.
All right,
Michelle did a
so
lot of work.
I ran calculations on commercial and industrial, with the first quarter being the current rate, because even if we pass the ordinance now, they're already using the water usage for the first quarter. So I only ran the numbers for second, third, and fourth quarter at 25, 50, 75, and 100% increase based on all of 2023's numbers, the usage, to get as accurate a number as I could. Even at 100%, both accounts are short. So the numbers just are not fun. Personally, after looking through them, I think we should probably try to shoot for a 50% across the board, water and sewer for both. With what we talked about with the chlorine contact tank, if we don't get the grant for the chlorine contact tank, by doing this on the sewer side, we should make the budget, but we will not have the money to do the chlorine contact tank if we don't get the grant. On the water side, even at 100%, we're not that close because of the well. I did talk to Charlie. We're not under a time constraint for the well, so we could slow down the pace of the well and kind of pace that money over 2 years.
Oh, yeah. I think that's.
Which
I think that's honestly a good way to look at this, is that we're not gonna fix it, like, just fix it, you know what I mean?
I just feel
It's gonna
like
be
if
2
we
or 3
double
years.
them, some of our smaller businesses, we could potentially put them out of business,
Yeah.
and I don't wanna do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not
Cost
thrilled with doing
$30.
50, but we gotta do something. I do have those rates calculated, if anybody wants to know what they would be at 50%. Industrial would go from the flat of 52.20 to 78.30. The flow at 1,000 gallons would go from $7.02 to $10.53. The sewer flat would go from $99.60 to $149.40, and the sewer flow at 1,000 would go from $15.12 to $22.68. And then for the commercial, it would go, the flat from 52.20 to 78.30. At the 1,000 rate would be from $7.02 to $10.53. The sewer flat would go from $99.60 to $149.40. And the 1,000 flow rate would go from $13.92 to $20.88. Yes, per quarter. So if we get that ordinance in place before the end of the year, it would first be billed the second quarter of '24.
Could I ask when,
Sure.
when, Lutheran Homes contract runs up?
A long time from now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, those
2033.
are long-term bulk customer
Long-
agreements, yeah.
Okay.
And
And they only pay into sewer.
The shame there is that there's no like escalation clause in the.
But I just,
contract.
you don't have a date when it runs out?
2033, I don't know the.
2033?
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
So it's 10 years.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's why it was one of the things we looked into. Conversation stopped pretty quickly.
Yes, I
Yeah, it's dated 2002, and it was a 30-year agreement.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 2033, so.
I'm curious if, they're reading, I guess, the sewage from Woodburn Home comes through two in-laws, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
How often do they read those meters alone there? Because we could be getting possibly more from Woodburn Home based upon, in there, they're only allowed so many gallons per day, and if they're going over that.
It's based on actual use, and that's a question for Alex, how often
You can't.
it's the system actually reads it, so it's data that's coming through the systems.
So he can just look at the computer and see commercial. Oh, that'd be fine.
But that would be something to ask Alex at a
Okay, so you're proposing 50%?
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I don't want to be, but to even put us anywhere close.
I mean, again, we're talking about softening the blow, because it's not like this conversation is not gonna come back around the following year, because we're still short, we're still gonna be short.
And at some point, sooner rather than later, the corn contact tank has to get done. So,
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully we get the grant and then it's not that
Not a
much of a
problem.
hit, but
But we can push
if
it.
we don't,
And at some point, we have to set this right, so that it's self-sustainable, you know, that it's not,
and we're not close enough to the end of the loan for the last,
yeah.
we have
We received-
24 and 25 of full payment and 26 of a half payment yet. And,
That'd be
you know,
nice.
when we get to that point, the hope is that we're gonna set it, that we're gonna start putting some money aside, but
Yeah.
we may be able to revisit the rates. at
I
that
mean,
point.
all of these things can be revisited, you know.
Well, they can be revisited every year, so.
Sure,
yeah.
sure. But I mean, if you find that the impact is more detriment than benefit, it may just be.
I did, send that spreadsheet to everyone right before the meeting, just in case anybody wanted to look at it closer, but.
I mean, with the work you put in on this, if you're
Yeah.
suggesting 50%, that's where my mind would be. I mean, we're gonna have this conversation again next year, and that's just the way it is.
It may help some think about conserving water also. I mean, that's another way of looking at it. Some might take it for granted and not think.
Sure.
Not realize how much they're actually using and could possibly cut, so.
Sure. I mean, to tell you the truth, you
Yes,
know,
sir.
thinking about the businesses in town, what it was gonna do to them, I sat there and it started to go through my head, like how much water they actually do use, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, some of them are insane.
any restaurant, you think about how many dishes you have to wash every day, and, you know.
Yes.
the laundromat, the car wash.
Well, the laundromat and the car wash at least can push those costs to us, you know, at least directly, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, some are using
But fees is
300,
gonna start
almost
costing a whole lot more.
400,000 gallons per quarter.
Yeah. All right, then is that, how does everybody else feel about that?
It is what it is, you know, I mean, I don't have to see anything increase.
I don't like to either, but
It's.
And again, for that, we'd have to put an ordinance together and
Right.
get it authorized to advertise and
yeah.
then.
So it's the same concept, we just need the
Right.
wording now.
Right, and if, Michelle, if you could.
I can email you those
me the rates and the rate, and with the 50% increase, we'll prepare the.
You need the current and the increased numbers?
Current and increased numbers, and we'll prepare the ordinance and advertise it.
And just to be clear, that's no increase to the residential, it's just the commercial and industrial.
Yeah.
As we talked about earlier, I just wanted to reiterate that.
So then I guess, Joan, what are we saying here, that we need an ordinance
We
to?
would need authorization to, prepare and advertise, an ordinance for a 50% increase in, commercial and industrial water and sewer rates.
I'll make that motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Michelle, for all that work that you did.
Oh, and just as a follow-up,
Yeah, thank you.
the rate that the commercial and the industrial are paying now are almost identical to the residential, which is significantly lower than outside of our area.
Yeah, it is,
So
that's what I mean,
As
we
much as I
are,
don't wanna do it, it will bring it much closer to
to
what it should be.
how everyone else is conducting
Compared to-
business.
yes.
I mean, that was, if we were doing something that was out of line, we'd be out of line, but we just are behind the times is what
I
it
was
is.
just gonna say, it should have been done a long time
Yeah,
ago.
we've been undercharging massively for a long time.
All right, in letter news?
Please.
Before council is the list of the holidays for 2024, and each year we present this to council for their information. No need for a motion.
Sweet, like that.
And in that lighter tone, we would like to close the office to the public, but remain open, of course, for any emergencies and for staff, to work from December 24th to the 29th of 2023 in order to just do some catch up and closing out of.
Pretty typical.
Right.
What is the deadline for the water and sewer bills? Is that gonna come in the middle of that week?
That's Thanksgiving,
Right.
Yeah,
There was
but I
would be
mean-
normal, but for the shut off would be probably the week before.
I think it's the second we figured it was gonna be like that, remember?
We gave them a little bit more of a buffer.
Well, even so, the box would still be available, and if they're in
And
the
they can
office,
call.
your
Right.
payment will get processed, and we can even, if something were to fall like that, you know, I mean, the way I treat it in my job is if I'm not there on a Friday, then if I come into it Monday, you may get, I'll count it as Friday. It's not late, it's obviously here.
I just didn't want anything to be shut off in the office because.
Oh,
that's why I was asking.
right.
We wouldn't do that.
Right.
So yes, this would need a motion if council so chooses.
I'll make that motion, cause that's,
Read the motion, please.
to authorize office closure from December 26th through December 29th.
To the public.
Correct.
Thank you.
Exception of emergencies, of course.
So we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All in opposed?
Thank you.
Anything else, Stacy?
Nope, that's all I have.
All right, moving on to committee reports. Carol, you're up first.
Okay, for first letter protection plan. We're waiting on PennDOT. The individual Charlie told me to contact has been working through someone else. He had moved it along to someone else with his treatment. He is trying to get feedback from that person as to an update of where things stand, so
Okay.
we're still waiting on that.
Stay on them, they have a tendency to just forget about you if you don't keep contacting them.
Okay. The annual report has been said for MS4 has been submitted. And we'll be getting something new coming through from BIA.
And you guys have done all the needed, PRP work for your permit, so you're in good shape that way.
Great. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Elaine's not here tonight, but we did discuss this, she let me know that she might not be here tonight. Brandy asked to roll over some of his days. Stacy, do you know how many? Or how much time it was?
1 week?
I think it was a week.
Yeah,
Okay.
5 days, yeah, equivalent of 5 days, sorry.
With Scott being injured and out of time, he's been picking up the slack and working more and stuff like that, so he didn't get to take all his time, he just wants to roll over to the next year.
Well, I figured he probably didn't get to take all his hunting time because he was covering Scott.
I did it. I'm not happy, but.
Elaine's thoughts on it, and I can forward you all the email if you'd like to read.
How many days straight did you work, Randy?
I'm in my 40s.
There you go.
Yeah, Elaine was all for it, I'm all for it, I think.
Okay. Do it like we did, Scott, does he have to use it by a certain date, simply asking, so.
Just by the end of next year, I guess.
You wanna make a motion?
So many a week, I'm simply asking, I know more was addressed before, just so.
Yeah, I assumed you'd use it next year, by the end of next year.
Did we put in a date on Scott?
I don't know, did we?
What did we say on Scott?
By the end of 2024.
Was
I
it?
think so, yeah.
That's what I thought too. I mean, that's where my head was now. So, is it?
I can go back in minutes.
I don't even remember exactly what month that was.
I don't have a problem with the end either, I'm just simply saying it should be kept in line with what was done before.
I would have thought that's good, but.
It's got more to carry over. That was
Oh,
on
really? No,
October 9th.
he asked for 10 days, so.
Just not giving you a hard time, Randy, I just want it
Well, I don't know
for
if fair.
everybody.
I mean, I can take the whole month of December off if you want me to.
Hang on, was it in here? Don't get ahead.
No.
Into 2024, page 4 of October 9th
Okay,
meeting minutes.
that's what I was looking for.
Second to last paragraph, to carry his vacation balance into 2024.
Okay, fine, same.
Yeah, so then the same thing.
Yep.
So we need that motion?
To carry vacation days into 2024. Into 2024.
Is that you making that? Okay. All in favor?
Fine.
Any opposed? Okay. Elaine didn't have anything else she felt needed attention, or she could speak to me on it at least. So, we'll move on to Kathy.
Trunk or treat report, huge success on trunk or treat. Ethan was there and saw what was going on, Monica was there helping. We couldn't keep up. There were 400 bags made with just candy and then dishes of candy and things set out, and there were 5 bags left over. So there were 395 bags of candy handed out. And candy just taken, individual pieces of candy. So huge success. I did not get to speak to the student council advisor, but I did speak to one of the students that are in student council. And I asked her, you know, what the estimate was, what they were thinking the attendance was for Halloween Town. And they were thinking 400, possibly a little bit more than 400 people were at Halloween Town. So huge success.
Yeah, that really was.
It was a huge success. It was a lot of fun. Fun was had by all.
I'll tell you, I think that it was such a success that most of the parents of the younger children decided not to do trick or treat, because when I sat out all night and we saw a lot of, 10 to 15-year-olds, but not as many of the little kids that we usually see. And I think it's probably because that it really was, if you, anybody who wasn't there, you lined up, you had this whole row of
very
cars
good flow.
before you went inside to what was like a Halloween party all over the place.
Yes, all
The kids were
over.
having a blast.
It was amazing.
And teaming up with the school was a fantastic idea.
It was. We had 15 participants with trunk or treat. It was 15 participants with trunk or treat. I think it was 13 last year and 15 this year. So
And a lot of the cars that came out were really, they did up the.
yes, they did.
They got into it. It was a really good time.
Yes, it really was. It was fun. Was had by all, adults and children.
And weather, I think, helped out too.
The weather was
Yeah.
was perfect.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
weather was absolutely perfect. Couldn't ask for anything better.
Did you make up bags? You were giving out bags?
Yes, I made up 400 bags.
Oh my goodness, what else you put in them?
There were different candies and some had Starburst and, little miniature chocolates and, oh my gosh, I can't even think of everything, Tootsie Rolls.
Chocolate stuff, plain M&Ms.
Yeah,
Is that right?
M&Ms, even M&Ms, yeah.
Other little goodie gifts, you had 2 little tablets.
Oh,
and
yes, we
finger
had
puppets.
donations of finger puppets and little tablets, and, tattoos, glitter tattoos, you know, we had.
Lots of stuff, it's a good choice.
Yeah, you know, things that the kids would enjoy, and then rather than spending money on containers for the individual candy, I just took boxes that I had at home, cut them down, and wrapped them with Halloween wrapping paper. They work perfect. In fact, we used them on, trick or treat here in the borough then, because, Stacy and Monica were over here in the pavilion handing out candy, and I was at my house, in front of my house handing out candy for the borough. And I'd say, I was thinking I had between 150 and 160 trick-or-treaters. My one neighbor said, no, you must have had 200 out there. And you know, she's like, you had a constant flow. It's like, so, you know, trick-or-treat, trunk-or-treat, they were both huge success. You know, we had fun at both of them. Tree lighting, Sunday, December 3rd, here in the park from 4 to 6. We're gonna need some help, still need, I contacted, you know, the North Pole, and Santa Claus can't make it, so he's gonna need a helper, one of his Santa helpers to come here, but he's not sure who his Santa helper's gonna be yet. But we're hoping that there's gonna be a Santa helper that will be able to make it that evening.
And maybe even an elf.
Yes, maybe even an elf would be able to make it, you know, the elf wouldn't even have to dress before they leave the North Pole, because we do have an outfit here for them to wear. Just, you know, that's a little throw out there for the elf and the Santa. Santa would have to find his clothing though, you know, we don't have any, the borough doesn't have any clothing for Santa right now. So, you know, when Santa decides who he's gonna send, we're gonna have to see if we can do clothing for him. So, but, we will have hot chocolate. I am in contact with the high school for, some choir members and band members to come and play a little bit of music and things like that. I did have a Boy Scout troop reach out to me to see about them helping. They said they did a table or something for safety net last year.
I think in general, anybody that wants to do stuff like that, we just tell them, you know, come and we'll figure something out.
Okay, so I will tell them. I mean, we can also put it on the flyer.
Well, yeah, we'll work it out ahead of time.
Taking donations for safety net.
That's right, they did do that, I forgot, they did really well.
Yes,
that's fine.
because they reached out to me about that. I also had somebody reach out to me about doing, a cookbook for favorite cookie recipes for the holidays, something like that. They said they would be willing to do all the work involved with it. We could just put it on the flyer. We could also put it out there, you know, to have people send their recipe, their favorite recipe here to the borough, you know, and this person is willing to compile something of their the favorite recipes.
That's, yeah, the
Yeah,
work out all
I
that
think
stuff.
that's a great idea. I think that's a
Yeah,
great
we'll work out all
idea,
that stuff.
so. And I'm gonna be making up 50 small treat bags for the tree lighting. They said like 40 people might have been here last year, I wasn't sure, so I thought 50. Were
Yeah,
there?
it was cold, but there were more than 40 people.
Do you think 50 bags are gonna be enough?
Well,
Well, and kids though,
Kids, yeah.
Was there more than 40?
40, was it,
I mean, kids.
Do you think
Yeah.
50?
I don't
50
remember
kids bags
exactly.
are
I don't
good?
know, when you're doing stuff, you know, I don't count.
Yeah.
Why didn't you count?
We'll do the best we can this year.
That's all I
and
can do, we'll have
we'll figure it out
extra,
what we
we
do
have
next
the
year.
little candy canes, we can always hand
Yeah.
those out when the bags are gone.
Right,
First 50 children will get the bags,
Yeah.
and then
it is what it is.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all there is to it. And exciting things are happening up in the park. The new restroom doors have been ordered.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, it's so exciting. They will also be painted and installed, so we're hoping before the bad weather, you know, it's give or take, you don't know what happens.
Everything is delayed.
Yeah, color that I picked for them was like a neutral, like tan, beige, something like that, that will go with it. Because the company is going to do the actual installation of the doors.
Oh.
You know, our guys will not have to do that. The company will be doing the actual installation of the doors for the borough. So that's something that's exciting. It's long overdue. They're in some bad shape. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Monica?
So, did everybody have a chance to review the list of bills and transfers that you were presented? Any questions?
No.
And you do have the treasurer's report. That was as of Friday versus normally today. So if there are no questions, I need a motion to approve the list of bills and transfers as presented.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. Also, do I need a motion for this, Stacy, separately regarding the
Only if it differs from the previous motion made a couple of years ago.
Okay, so previously, there was a motion approved to transfer funds from the park loan account to the general fund account for engineering costs associated with the TASA project. To my knowledge, that has not changed, and is anybody opposed to keeping that the same? We have one more.
When you say keeping it the same. I mean,
What was the approved motion before that we have to transfer the funds from?
Transfer from the recreation bank account to reimburse the general fund for the engineering costs?
Correct. We have, this is the last payment, correct? $6,931, last payment for that. So if
We're just
you're
saying we're
supposed to
continuing to
keep
pay.
Right,
it
if
the
it's
same,
correct. If
we
it's-
need nothing.
Right, if it's been previously authorized, you're just making a report that it's
That
being
is
done.
being done.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is my report. We are transferring funds from the park loan to general fund to pay the last of the engineering costs for TASA, $6,931. Done, done, done. And also any further budget discussions for 2024? Is that what this item is to be for? Okay,
Does anybody have any specific points they'd like to discuss then?
right, besides what was previously. No? Then that was all for me.
Alright. Community relations, you guys kinda stole the trick or treat and stuff from me, but that's okay. Kidding, Kathy. No, yeah, trick or treat, trunk or treat was great, the parade, went off in an odd way this year, but seemed, you know, everybody who was there seemed to have a great time. I haven't heard too much else from anybody talking about any specific topics, you know, anybody else hearing anything of note, you know, I mean. I have, oh, you know what, actually, I did talk to, Dan Schlegel, who's on the planning commission as well. His dad's mayor over in Kutztown, and they were contacted by a town or city, I don't know what it is, in Germany, to be like sister cities. Right, so during their celebration, well, I don't know when the people came here exactly, anyway, long story short, people came here, they, you know, Kutztown gave them a key to the city, did this whole thing, they had a great time. Dan and his family went over there to meet, you know, people from there, and when they were there, they kept saying, you know, there's lots of places around here that wanna do the same thing, so Dan came back with with that kind of concept in his mind. So he's looking into at least how Kutztown did that, what it was involved, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Because, you know, he thought it would be a cool part of our 150th celebration if we do that, so. Long ways off, but it's the only thing of note that I can bring up.
Yeah, that's kinda cool, huh?
And then obviously it was Veterans Day this weekend, you know, and just wanna acknowledge that and say thank you to all the veterans in our community, not just in the borough here, but you know, the surrounding areas as well. Alright, streets and properties, cool.
Just call me Eric.
Okay. I was with, you know, me and Eric and Charlie all sat down, and this is basically what we were planning out anyway, so if you wanna take the reins on it, go ahead.
Well, I'm a little surprised by the engineering number. I thought 20,000 was high. What were your thoughts on that? I mean, I know they gotta come out and tell us how to do it, and where we have to put our, you know, salt sock and, you know, whatever, but
Yeah,
that seemed like an awful lot to me.
I think,
And Eric felt the same, like we were talking.
I feel
Do you want me to get you a breakdown by each of those tasks?
sure.
I'll do that.
Like, some of it just seemed a little unnecessary, like, I don't know that we need to be babysat on seating.
Yeah, there
know,
was,
like-
right,
Some of it
that's
I
what I
was
was
like-
gonna say.
I mean, but with that said, we don't know what we're gonna get into, so it is an unknown, which we all just need to put our minds to ahead of time, you know, there's a lot of unknown here when we dig into that. what we're
Well,
gonna
you know, and
find.
the other thing here is that it is stated as not to exceed 20,000. You know, it's kind of on us to keep that number low, to some extent at least, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I think they need to be involved, I think they need to
sure,
be able to give us the best way to do it, and, you know, make sure that we don't
yeah,
get in
I mean,
trouble with
obviously,
anybody,
the whole point of this
basically,
is
but-
to keep it as
Yeah.
low cost as possible.
I will have them provide a table
Yeah,
like
that'd
we
be
did
great.
for the other one, so that you have that information. I'm sure it's.
In my mind, the next step is trying to get some quoted numbers for the equipment that'll be needed, just so we can get a better
And,
vision of what it's gonna cost.
and the parking lot, cause I think that's gonna be a huge cost to it, you know, the asphalt itself, again, you know, if we're trying to utilize the co-op for that, then, that's a pretty easy number to get whenever Scott and that can get together.
In the interest of permeable surfaces, and we do gravel in instead of asphalt.
Gravel's not considered permeable
That's
surface.
It is not.
I think that's stupid too, but,
Well,
But
because
we'll
it does once it's compacted, unless
Yeah.
it's all clean stone, if it's, what
I
you
get you.
normally would use, it becomes rather solid.
yeah, I get you.
But the idea is, for the most part, we'll be trading parking lot space for what is now not a permeable surface with the pool, it'll be grass.
Right.
So we'll just be flopping.
Yeah,
The
you might end up
surface
with
shouldn't be
more
too much of a
permeable
difference.
area because you're just reallocating it to a
Yeah.
specific place for parking.
So I think he was probably gonna talk to Scott about just confirming exactly what equipment that we need, and, to try to get a guesstimate on time frame so we can start gathering some more costs.
I think this also, Carol, to address your stormwater idea, concept, right? When community groups reach out to us and say things like, what projects can we get involved in, you know what I mean? Flower bed or shrubbery around the edges of the parking lot, that kind of thing, to not only make it look good, but to help with stormwater maintenance. Those are things that we can get them involved in to some extent.
Great idea.
I do have a question on this.
Sure.
Number one says coordinate with Borough staff on demolition of the concrete shell. Is that actually coordinating with the staff to do the actual demo of the shell?
Our guys are doing the work, yeah. Basically, it just, you know, a little bit of guidance on how they should.
But they're not sure what's underneath it, correct?
Not 100%, no.
Yeah, that's the question I have.
That,
What about sinkholes?
Just
Is that the geotechnical services?
So the challenge right now is, all we know for sure is that the pool does not hold water. We do not know what is underneath it. The challenge for everybody is that in breaking up the pool, you may find out what is underneath it. And, that's a risk for the borough. That if you find a sinkhole, it becomes a challenge as to what to do with it. You will have to figure out what to do with it and remediation of it. But that's only if we find one. That's both of our sticky wickets here. It's just from a straight up standpoint, that's the risk.
Dangers of.
That danger and that potential exists no matter who's doing the work.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
And that's
so,
why we have engineers on site to lay out how it will be done.
I'll say if
Safe as
any of our employees ever came and said, I'm not comfortable with this, I'm not gonna push the subject, you know what I mean? But
But they're chomping at the bit.
yeah.
They're really?
Yes.
See,
But-
I look at it as, like, what are the dangers with?
And that's why we're trying to mitigate that danger as much as we can by having Barry Isaac get involved to help us plan and not just starting to throw big stuff at it and see what happens.
Okay.
Public Works is okay with doing it?
It's my understanding, I haven't had a direct conversation with anybody, but
According to Eric, he talked to a bunch of them and they were very excited to do it. They want to do it.
They do, okay.
again, if anybody ever says, I'm not putting myself in that pool,
Well,
I'm not.
I had that concern about safety, because, you know.
Joan, would we need any release signed by any employee in this case?
No, because if they're in a public works position, it's an ordinary foreseeable risk. They do a certain amount of excavation work. There are normal hazards of it. Sinkholes in this area of the state would be one of them. But I think that when you're doing everything you can as far as hazard mitigation, as far as geotechnical studies, to determine whether or not there are voids under there or there's been sinkhole activity, you're doing your due diligence and risk mitigation. So no, I don't believe that any release would be in order. If there were an injury, that's workers' compensation coverage.
And I think out of anybody, the guys are gonna be the most knowledgeable of where those potentials will be.
Yeah.
They've been
Because they've been
pool.
working on it forever.
Yes.
Charlie, the geotechnical engineer, if we should need one, is that referring to sinkholes, or is that a different?
That's if we needed them for anything, if they needed to come out.
What
So
type?
the folks that would handle that generally are, depends on how obvious it is, frankly, are forensic or geotechnical engineer if they find a sinkhole and that it needs to be remediated. And unfortunately, once you find a sinkhole, then you can approximate a cost to deal with it. You can't do anything until you find a sinkhole. In fact, oftentimes what you get is, so I just dealt with a couple of these.
I mean, honestly, it's like a lot of things that we do, we're going in fingers crossed.
You know, they vary in cost. When you start excavating them with remediator, you may find more that you have to do. So it's but in this case, there is also some chance that the water, there's gravel formations because of the creek. So there's some chance that the water just goes out in the gravel and it's not disappearing in the sinkhole. So there are other options. If it was in a different location where the only place water could go would be down into sinkhole, would be.
Yeah, I mean, the term void is pretty ambiguous, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, it could be a lot of things.
Yep.
Right, and also you can tell by if there's been other sinkhole activity in the borough or not. If there's been, after a mysterious disappearance of water, all of a sudden sinkholes crop up, you have a pretty good idea.
The overarching point to all this is it's absolutely cost prohibitive if we don't do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So it'll just sit as it is, and it costs us money to treat the water that we can't pump out, and the insurance that we have to carry, and we have to keep that whole area fenced off and, you know, all these things, so. I mean, this may not be, you know, this is basically how it's gonna get done to some extent.
So Charlie, I just want to be sure I understood Brian's letter of November 9th cited conditions should suggest a geotechnical engineer should assess.
So,
Is there anything other than sinkhole? Is that what we're talking about, sinkhole?
so sinkhole would be why geotech or our forensics, depending on what it was, shape it was in, would need to come out.
And that would be the one thing that could take us over the 20,000 maximum.
And like I said, I'll get you a breakdown for each of those line items, what they were thinking about and why.
So in my mind, just so I can report back to him, because he'll be back tomorrow, I'll have him reach out to the guys and just confirm everyone's on board and, get some information about what kind of equipment we'll need and.
What the asphalt costs are gonna look like on the other side.
Yeah, what the size of the area is, as close as we can get to accurate, to get some numbers on the asphalt side of it, and, start getting some costs on what the rental will be for. I know we need at least 2 pieces of equipment, it might be at least 3, I'm not I can't remember what he said. A track hoe with a jackhammer on the end sticks in my head, and like a roller, I believe, to do the compacting, and I feel like there was a third, but I can't remember what it was, that's not really my forte. It's
The
more his stuff.
roller, well, I don't know what he needs to, I can get back to you.
But,
Let him tell us.
but so he can talk to the
Yeah.
guys and, you know, they could kind of formulate a plan and get some costs together, hopefully. I don't know that he might have it in 2 weeks, but definitely by the December meeting,
Okay.
I think.
All right, then I think that's probably it for tonight on that. Michelle, you're up.
I don't have much on the accounts receivable report for the water and sewer bills yet, because, they're not due yet, so it's a little premature to give that number, but right now, there's not currently any active payment plans. The zero read list has shrunk considerably from last year, thanks to the guys for all the meters they switched out. I believe there's a couple, but I don't think the number remains super significant. A reminder that bills are due November 24th, which is Black Friday. The office is closed, but you can pay online or the box is out front. What else do I have? We already talked about the water sewer rates and already approved the things, so I don't think I need to do that. And the Berks County Drought Watch, the PADEP lifted it on October 2023. And I can do the banners real quick. So there's currently 99 banners up in the borough. I don't have any more to order at this moment. But I'm sure whenever we put the batch, usually another batch follows close behind, so I'm sure there'll be 10 more.
Did we?
They have not touched, High Street yet, so.
I was 99, we got a lot of 10.
Cause one was a reprint.
Oh, okay, that's right, I knew that. That's right. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
This is gonna open up a can of worms.
And don't ask.
I know at the borough meeting, it was, nobody voted in favor of moving it, and it was moved.
Yeah.
So what's the borough's council's, say on that?
We did say that, and then the exact opposite happened pretty quick after that.
I'm just saying, cause I'm a veteran, and if I
understand.
get a flag, I want it at my house.
I understand, and that was our exact point, is that it starts to become, not that we didn't want anybody to have a moment they feel is deserved.
So how did that happen?
Not exactly sure. I know it didn't move itself, but does anybody have thoughts on that?
Well, I'll say the same thing that I told you when I talked to you about it. As far as I'm aware, none of us authorized it to be moved or gave the okay for it to be moved, but it's far from the highest priority of issues that we got going.
That's kind of where I fall on it, is I don't, it's not a battle worth fighting, and it's not a good.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I agree it should be where it's at.
And that's the
I
thing,
agree
yeah.
100%.
And that's the thing. And you know what it did was it highlighted, and I spoke to Michelle a little bit about this a little while ago, is that maybe there should be some sort of, special conditions, appeals process, whatever you wanna call it, that you can go through, and that we just can't let everybody be like, hey, I want one over here, because I mean, theoretically, there's supposed to be line in the street to make sense. We don't want one here, one there, one here, one there, But, there may be special, because we did run into another instance where someone asked it for it not to be near their house, because their memories are not that great. So you get it on one side or the other, but outside of that, I don't really.
I just wanted to see what Borough Council's.
Yeah,
feel was
basically
on
that's how I feel.
Everybody's feel
It's
on it,
just
not just one Borough Council member.
Not worth fighting over, I guess.
Well, we did vote it down, so.
Well, we didn't necessarily vote on anything. The policy was that when you can order a banner, but you can't control where it gets put.
Right, and that was said right from the get-go.
That didn't sit well in a certain circumstance. They knew somebody that they could talk to fix that problem. They fixed the problem, and okay, let's just let it lay, I think.
Yeah.
I did make it clear that I'd rather not have to answer questions like this again, though. And that if something's gonna change, at least come talk to us and see what we can do about it.
Can I add one more question?
Sure.
Nothing. Do we have a code enforcement officer in town?
Not that I know of. Quality of life has generally been handled, previous to my time on council, it was handled by the office. And then at the time, it was very overwhelming duty, so it was moved to council. It's kind of stayed here and changed a couple times how we address those things and stuff. But I don't think we have one code enforcement officer now.
Well,
We
have
Signs
for.
and various items.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other than quality of life, we do, yes.
Yeah, other than the quality of life, right.
I'm not a letter carrier no more, but I know when I was a letter carrier, I came here numerous times and was told flat out, it's not being enforced. Snow ordinances. It's not fun when you're walking in snow, fresh snow or old snow or ice on the sidewalks and whatever.
Addressed that last year we changed?
Yeah, but that, you might have addressed it, but is it gonna be enforced? Is it a different question?
Is it gonna snow? So, really, since we did that, I do not think we had snow, correct? So, that is still the question.
Oh, that's why I asked if
That
there's a
is
code
not
enforcement.
us, that is quality.
So
Right,
so in that instance, where quality of life lays on council, that would be our code enforcement officer for snow
Quality
emergencies
of
and
life.
tall grass and weeds and things
And all-
like that. Generally, we work on a complaint-based system so that nobody's
With
out
snow?
looking for it.
with snow, I thought we were though, the year before last. 'Cause
We
they were
are
out after-
proactive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Snow big time
For
we
snow,
were,
okay.
when we had it.
24 hours after the end of the snow, somebody was going,
Yes.
I think multiple people actually were
Yes.
going out and looking.
And there was a lot.
Yeah,
So
And-
there were a lot of sightings.
Yeah.
And when we did discuss this the last time at a Borough Council meeting, Mr. Fraunhauser, we did invite you the day after the storm to come in with any notes and pictures. I specifically remember that, and it might even be in the minutes.
I do not recall that.
Yeah.
So our door is always open to you.
Well, either way, the point would be if you do see something that somebody's just not cleaning it
Well,
up,
the reason I say that is because you have an ordinance on that you don't enforce, because you don't want to put an expense on people, but then, so how can you pick and choose what ordinances you want to enforce and not enforce?
money. We don't have the money to do it, or the people don't have the money to pay it, we don't have the time to do it, it's finite resources.
Well, shouldn't that be taken off the books then?
Is that what you're presenting we do tonight?
No, I'm just,
Well,
I don't think it's right
We
you
talk about
pick
the
and
same things over and over and over again,
Well,
though.
but when
I'd
it
like to
comes
see
to
if you
quality
have
of
something
life,
like
we
change,
do
proposed
enforce it.
change.
I know things were being followed up on that were brought to our attention. I know I was doing them, so I don't know, what exactly do you mean by not being followed?
I think Ethan knows what I was.
I'm not
Well, I'm
doing
saying
it
you can
any
only
longer, so
enforce
I don't
things
know.
as you have the resources to do. You know,
Okay.
if people have gotten violations for tall grass and
Yeah.
we've gone out and cleaned shrubs up ourselves and then hit them with a bill for it for the guy's time.
Okay, I'm just, I guess the old administration, you guys are a new.
I know, but you
different
keep coming
administration.
here and talking to us about the old administration,
And they're
none of them are
gone.
sitting here, you know what I mean? So
We're here.
Yeah, and I don't know
The thing is,
what you mean by not being followed up on, I guess.
we
is
don't
just
have
my
the
question.
resources to have somebody out driving the borough 24/7 looking for.
I'm not saying
issues that we
24/7,
hear.
I would be satisfied with once a month.
Well, even that, I mean, we all have full-time jobs.
Are you volunteering?
Yeah, I mean.
What about when employees go around, can't they say this or that?
They
Well,
should,
they
do at times,
If
yeah.
it's
Alright.
enough of an issue.
Okay.
Do they turn things in?
I
mean, in the
I'll just-
general week, we have several, probably on a weekly basis. that
there was
get
a car
reported.
that sat on, and I pointed it out to you, it sat there for 3 months.
Yeah, but
With
that's not
no
quality of life.
inspection sticker, I even talked to the police, and it sat there for 3 months.
Inspection,
Well, I can't go write him a ticket.
No, I
Is
even
it
told, I
new
even
ins-
told the police.
is it a new car or an old car? You gotta watch how they're registered, inspection stickers, you can't always go by any.
There was no inspection sticker.
Okay, how old is the car? Okay,
It was old.
and their registration is different, depending on how that car is registered, they do not have to have it inspected.
There was no license plate either.
Okay.
It was a car.
Well, I can,
Parked, where was it parked?
Well, alright, long story short, this is a
Yeah.
matter for the police.
Okay, okay.
well, may or may not,
Let's
it
move on.
might be fine, because depending on
Let's
the
move on.
age and how it's
I'm
registered,
good.
which
I'm
you
good.
don't know though, but I'm just saying.
I asked 3 times.
Well, okay, I was just stating because somebody doesn't have the license plate, you don't always know that.
I'm still asking, let's move on.
Okay, I'm done, but we went through that before.
Charlie?
Yeah, now I'm scared to report. So we are getting ready for the end of the year, DRVC and DP reporting. We're trying to work with Alex to avoid the problems we had last year. We had 3 areas of authorization that we'll work through. The water supply well, as you pass that budget, we'll be revising that schedule with your expenditure schedule. So that's been what's driving it. I'll get you more details on the pool decommissioning proposal, and then you have the park master plan, which is in line with a grant opportunity. The building roof, we were working with a couple of contractors. They came back and wanted a couple of tweaks from a design standpoint. They were worried about the overhang. So we're getting that with them, and we'll have that co-stars for you. But we'll still save you some money. Carrying through the well stuff, right now, based on what we've talked about, we've had that for 24. As you get that budget passed, we'll adjust those. As noted, the MS4 stuff is in. We did get you the boundary plan for the Primo stream work, as that had been authorized. Unfortunately, on East Barclay Street, on those small water and sewer grants, they keep not announcing those awards. The next meeting is next week. I don't have a crystal ball. I keep having to say this everywhere I go. They have not been awarding many of the grant programs on the time they had said they would. They have a lot of applications, and there's some budget fund in Harrisburg, so that has been causing them some issues. And the 2 Washington Streets, one of them is, the first one is actually the filter. I did get that information from Stacy and Scott, so we're working through that. And then Washington Street, we're also working through those issues. And DCR Oak Alley project, they expect to have those layouts to you in short order.
So number 7, just for clarification, Charlie, should be media filters
That's the media.
and not Washington
That's
Street
correct.
pumping
I
station.
duplicated it and didn't change the
That's okay.
information, but did not change the title.
Thank you.
Alright. Anything else, Charlie? Okay.
Could I ask, Charlie, the
new trees that were put in, birch trees along the walkway that connects the bridges.
Okay,
How long do we have a warranty or whatever it's called on that?
I'll have to look for sure. It's usually to make sure they come out the next growing season, so spring.
Typically a year
Yeah.
for those.
But they didn't bring in the spring. Would it be a full year?
Yeah.
It's a full year, yeah.
Yeah.
But, and usually though, you're finding them the next, leaf out season, is when you find whether or not they have problems.
Well, if they're planted too deep, the problem will show up after several years in the park.
You don't have that much.
Yeah.
You have a, so we've got that.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions? No. All right, moving on then, we have the, Topton Community Ambulance Board.
Meeting had been canceled due to illness. Their call volume obviously is up with Kutztown, Maxatawny. Did I indicate that Maxatawny and Kutztown did pass $500,000 EMS tax? Did I mention that? Okay, so they are doing the EMS tax just like we are.
Okay.
$500,000 Kutztown and Maxatawny, for starting 2024. Currently 5 trucks they have in
Okay.
service.
And we,
Which leads us to
Okay.
the other item for, the ambulance, which is, adopting a resolution, for our application to the LSA statewide
Mhm.
grant. So we would need resolution, whatever the next resolution number is, adopted by council. Do you have any questions about the, application? It's for an ambulance fully equipped,
Correct, new.
new fully equipped.
Do they need a new one because of the now covering a larger territory?
They needed a new one prior
Yeah,
to
so
that.
this was before.
Prior to this, all their trucks were aged. And they also did do a remount on one too, which is a savings, but still need a new one. They needed, prior to this, I have to keep that in mind, prior to this, cause that's when all this started. They need 3 trucks that are always able to be in service, okay? And they are all aged. So one could still be in use, and the other 2 are what needed to be replaced, one with the remount and one with the new. And I'm going back, this process was started prior to the addition of Kutztown and Maxatawny. So even more of a need for it now, to have those newer trucks. So yes, they needed it.
So you need a motion to adopt resolution 17-2023.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright. Next up, the Topton Borough Preservation Board.
I think y'all had in your packets, the document created by Larry Hurst. The financial report as of November 1st, checking balance $2,407.85. Goes through some donations, which were greatly appreciated. And this year's big expenditure was $1,157 for restroom repairs. Larry did want everyone to know the building was completed in 1960, so I think the restroom repairs were perhaps overdue. That's all I have.
Okay. And then next up, Leo, do you wanna?
Yeah, if I could just briefly address you, just to give everybody a heads up where we are in that process.
Sure.
The planning committee, I think we had till the 30th of October that has passed. We've established the basic members of the planning committee that we'd like to bring to the joint comp plan. It would be Julie, potentially Bruce Meitzler. I got a verbal from him. I just want to get an email back from him, and then Mary Young as well. I would act as an alternate in that process. That would give us 4 members active for that group. Since the last meeting, I had a a phone conversation with Rachel Resnick at DCD Governor's Center for Local Government Services, talking about the grant, the MAP grant possibilities, and then also how we can move forward in this process. Rachel had explained the MAP grants would be applied for in the springtime, and if they, when they get issued, if they get issued, it'd be around April when we would know the funding's gonna happen. The next step in the process is Rachel provided some documents that I forwarded off to Borough Council. They were two models of a letter of interest or a memorandum of understanding, which is what Berks County Planning Commission is looking to receive from all the communities. And just to let everybody know that that letter of interest, and I've been confirmed with BCD and BCPC, they can be made contingent on funding. All right, so we want to make sure we understand that. We explain that as we move forward. She also provided me a copy of, so once we move into that phase at the beginning of the year, Berks County Planning Commission would prepare the application for DCED, and just like Borough Council just approved for the LSA, we would need a resolution to apply for the funding. It also commits the funding that's in your budget that we've talked about previously. That would commit that funding for the project. And this is, Joan, I kind of need a little help on this one, because I was also told, and that example also makes the resolution contingent upon grant funding. So I didn't quite get that. You could make a resolution contingent on the grant funding, but then you're also committing, I think we were saying 11,580 was the total amount for the whole plan. So is that jive on your end?
You can adopt a resolution and have within the text of the resolution the contingency that the resolution, this is null and void, absent receipt of grant funding within a certain time frame.
Okay. And that being said, the next step for me is to attend, there will be a meeting on December 13th at the intermediate middle school with all the communities, with BCPC, to find out where everybody is in the process. So any news that I can bring them, I'd love to bring to them. And basically, my recommendation is the Borough Council consider and have Joan draft this letter of interest and get it signed if possible. So
How much would the grant be for?
the grant would cover half of our cost. So at a worst case scenario, if Long Swamp does not join us, it would be, I think, 11,580 was the number from the county, which is a not to exceed lump sum number. They will eat everything else that goes over that cost. So that would be the worst case scenario. With that, if the MAP grant funding happens, that cuts it in half. We were told, by BCPC and DCD that the chances are good of getting the funding. There's $1 million in the can right now that they're getting ready to start distributing over the beginning of the next year. I think the total cost that they proposed for the whole thing was like $40,000, so it's not like a gigantic plan. They should have it, and the fact that if Long Swamp does join us, it increases our capability to get all the funding that we need to get. So at best, cuts everything in half. And if Long Swamp joins us, then that reduces the original cost a little bit more for us. I think the best case scenario that presented was, bear with me one second. Full grant with Long Swamp Township, we're looking at roughly 4,000 would be our share if Long Swamp would come in and the grant would happen. So you can see it would go down significantly.
So if we're signing that we're committing
You would need to commit to.
11,580, that
Mhm.
would not actually be what we would be expensed with.
Mhm.
And the best possible scenario would only be expensed 4,000.
Hold on a second. Let me get my number straight.
I can't.
Okay,
Sorry,
sorry.
I'm looking for it.
Right, okay. So worst case scenario, no Long Swamp Township, that's 11,580. If you throw a grant on top of that, that reduces the total cost down to 5,790. So if Long Swamp didn't come along and we got the grant, 6,000 for the whole thing. If we got the grant and Long Swamp Township, then that reduces, I think that's down to 8,000, which would be 4,000 on our part. So it's either 11 and 6 or 8,000 and 4.
Yeah.
You just found it. So but we want, like we said in the past, you got a budget for your worst case scenario. So that would be what you would commit to, is that 11,580.
Committing to the 11,580, but contingent upon receipt of grant funding.
Correct.
So it wouldn't be 11,580.
Well,
So what's the pitch gonna be if we don't get the grant done? Cause they're not just gonna walk away.
that's a back to, that situation is back to the drawing board at that point in time. And that's one of the things that Berks County would like us to make sure the other communities know on December 13th. Hey, we're coming in contingent on funding. If we don't have funding, we can't do this plan and we're gonna have to figure
Right,
something else out.
then the plan that's in place now stays in place.
It depends, I guess, if District and Rockland proceed forward, if they wanna proceed, I guess it would hold
I
that
don't see why they
process
would.
up.
I don't see why they would either.
Yeah, that
just
would
to be
just
honest.
kinda, then it would be on pause.
Yeah.
So we could try again in the fall though, like there's always 2 sets.
Another
Right,
the
so
spring and then
that's
the
what I mean,
fall.
it's just gonna be the same pitch again.
Right.
And I understand that while you're supposed to revise your comprehensive plan every 10 years, per the MPC, nothing terrible happens if you don't. There's no penalty.
Yeah, nobody's going to jail. or
Right,
anything.
there's no fines, no penalties. You have a risk that if there is a validity challenge to your ordinance, that your zoning ordinance, that the fact that the comprehensive plan wasn't updated will be brought out as evidence, mainly to embarrass you.
Mhm.
But even that is really unlikely to have a serious adverse impact unless there have been some very serious changes in uses in the past 10 years.
Right.
Honestly, the biggest risk that we face is having it hurt us again in grant applications.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
These are what if scenarios, those are absolute scenarios.
right.
Correct,
So you should.
right.
Do you have a sense on whether Long Swamp is going to join in or not?
I have not spoken to my contact at Long Swamp since the last time I was at their meeting. I do think they do have a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, they always do, yeah.
What if the problem's the product and not the cost?
I'm sorry?
What if the problem's the product, not the cost? Because we don't get to see the product until we actually pay it.
Yeah, and
Not many things work like that.
And it's one of those things where we can ask, because Berks County Planning Commission's touting this and they've got a few under their belt, maybe that's a question. to
I
ask
don't
them.
need to open it up. The first part of the introduction, the last line says, any plan is meaningless if it's not being implemented.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is true, you do have to implement the plan and.
So
how
we
is
didn't
that-
implement our plan last time.
That's
That
our,
would fall on us.
that's,
So far, from what I've been told, and very short meeting, I'll give it that,
Mhm.
but, the concept that we were told, that's in this plan already. We didn't do that. So why not just do it there and not pay someone to tell us the same information again?
Because demographics changed that are in that old plan. They were using numbers from 2010.
So then we just need to update the data. We don't need a whole new plan.
But to update the data, the most expensive part is the maps, correct? So if you
Well,
have to pay somebody
If we're not
separate to
using
do a
pretty
map,
maps, why do we have to have pretty maps?
Well, I mean, the one map that's in there is a current land use map. If there have been changes since 2010, that would need to be updated, but not necessarily the future land use map.
Well, there's a lot of maps.
Right, yeah,
There's a lot of maps that don't apply to us.
right.
Right, and doing it in a regional sense does save us the money as well too, so if there are certain maps that if we were gonna issue our own plan or something like that, there are certain minimums that we have to apply to it, which would require analysis, writing, you might not have to write all 12 chapters, but you gotta write 4 or 5 major chapters, and that usually constitutes the major portion of the analysis that gets performed. Which would pretty much be comparable to the cost that they're offering. But yeah, I can understand the concern, and yeah, I think if you, there are some elements in that plan, like, you know, the source water protection plan, things like that, that we've done that have been recommended in that plan. So, I mean, we can go through it and see where there have been successes. Like I mentioned at the last meeting, you know, our community's got a lot of problems with the roads. No mention of roads in Topton in that plan. No plans for the
There
roads.
wasn't any plan for Topton in this plan. It was contact DCED.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's almost it.
And this gives us an opportunity to amend that, because you've done your work on the roads. You've identified a lot of your problems. There's things that we know that we're gonna need money for that can go into this plan and help us out that weren't done the last time around.
I guess, but this is the same people that did it the last time.
No.
No, you can say it's not, but it is. They may be new representatives, and last time they may have contracted it out, but that was their choice to do that last time. They are still the same organization coming before me now.
Right.
So Berks County Planning Commission put this together last time. So my point is, in the time that I've been here, I've been able to see that what we've been able to do for ourselves by putting in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're coming back around after giving us a plan that we did nothing with for 10 years and asking us to buy the product again. It's not a practice I'm used to, you know, engaging myself in.
Right.
When somebody sells me something, I don't use it for 10 years, and then they say, hey, you wanna buy another one? No, I don't want to, because I didn't use the last one because it wasn't any good.
Well, nobody really knew about it, and that's another.
Well, I mean, that's the point, but we've been putting this all together. We've been able to make strides and do things just working ourselves.
Right.
And then, you know, people come who have already given me a bad plan, don't have a good understanding of our time, you know, our town here, aren't ready to answer questions even. These are not people I would trust to put together the project. So what I'm saying is, no matter what you pay for it, if you do nothing with it and it's not good for you, then it was worthless money spent. Or it's just a fee that we need to pay to apply for grants.
I think it's a new approach. Well, that's one part of it, is there is an effort. If we're gonna look for Penvest, if we're gonna look for DCD, if we're gonna look for federal money, the comprehensive plan is the core where you put that information and that helps you. The regionality of the thing, if there's regional projects that we can engage in, if there's regional efforts, if there's a police force or something like that that involves a region, a library, something like that that needs funding, the regional nature of the plan helps us. You know, so those are some elements there to consider. And the use of the plan really does come down to, you know, I mean, I got this, right? I paid a lot of money for this. I might only use it 2 or 3 things. I can talk to some folks in here that don't necessarily know how to find a website on their phone, right? Is the phone still worth the money? Yeah, it's still worth the money. We gotta learn how to use it. We have to learn how to use it. Part of that goes into community surveying, talking to people, bringing them into the process at the beginning, getting our committees together, getting them to advise on what needs to happen. Emergency, roads, school, everything. So those are all elements that really help us bring it together and actually make it more valuable. Because I agree with you, I don't think we did use it to the value we could have. And the fact that Long Swamp didn't join up with us because of whatever, you know, that was...
It didn't fall apart in the process either.
Right. I mean...
They were able to pull it off.
They were, but they probably paid a lot more for their plan than we're gonna pay to update ours. I mean, that's the decision council has to make. Is it worth it to you to do it? You know, that's...
I don't think so.
Right.
But it comes down to you just strong-armed into it.
Man, I mean, I don't think we're being strong-armed. I mean, they're just giving us the option. Here's the option. You can either take it or leave it, or we can have another consultant do it.
Right, but if
or we can wait.
and I made this joke when we spoke about it privately, it's racketeering, right? You know, oh, you don't have to take the product, but man, it'd be a shame if you didn't get that grant you applied for.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way that the money flows. I can't.
But that's the
change it.
thing, Leo, there is no money. You know, we can sit here and we can rattle off 20 projects that have to get done. We got the next 7, 8 years planned out for Topton already, and that's what we have to do.
Right.
Right, so unless is that the plan then? Because we already know that.
Yeah, drop it in the plan and see where that takes you. Does
And it
that
costs
get
us
us,
$12,000 potentially to do that.
if you get a 70, 80, $100,000, $1 million project out of it, yeah, it just paid for itself.
I don't understand, what you mean, we already identified the projects, we're in the process of applying for grants for them, we have to do these things, you know, this well is gonna be 5 of the next 10 years in itself. That's where the money's gonna go. There's not gonna be money for a Main Street program, or for this or for that, you know, I mean,
No, I'm thinking LSA grants, I'm thinking DCD grants. If you read.
we already have those lined up for projects that are already on the books, that's what I'm saying, that, you know, like.
But so some things like the well, since you have customers in Long Swamp, anything that pulls that into, if that could be part of a regional plan, that helps you get better shot of getting money for that type of project. And I guess one of the benefits of some of the regional work is that if you do the plan yourself, you have to account for all elements that must be in the plan. If you do it regionally, the region has to account for all the elements that must be in the plan.
Well, I get it, and I see how that's a benefit to our neighbors.
Yes.
Well, it's also a benefit to you, because you don't have to have all the elements that have to be in the plan. And that can be a big difference in.
So I don't mean to be facetious here, but what are we missing?
Well, I mean, you're talking about exclusionary zoning challenges for not having every type of land use available in your zoning.
Yes.
So what are we missing?
Well, if you're very dense, you don't have, for example, agricultural and rural type of zoning.
Do we not, at the edge of town?
Yes, yes.
Well, I mean, no, they're the zoning people, I mean, they were.
I mean, you certainly have your industrial, you have your commercial, you have your higher density residential, you have single family residential, so you have, I would say you have most, but you don't, I'm sure you don't have.
And the cornfield that goes out into Maxatawny though, that's not agricultural. I mean, it's very small, but.
Exactly.
I think another thing to think about is if you do look at it from a regional point of view, we take in all the high density residential that these other communities have. And that's the impact on our community is our roads are taxed, our utilities are suffering.
Right, but then by the way the money is distributed, we get 1/10 of what Long Swamp does in Rockland and District 2, probably because geographically they have 5 times more roads than we do.
Yeah.
Because it's per mile of roadage, not how much usage is put on it. That's why we can't fix our roads, because we get $60,000 a year. I don't know what Long Swamp gets, but it's way more than 60,000.
You have to
This
decide.
plan stated.
So this is just pay to play then, because it's not really about the plan. Because we're not gonna be able to do much unless you're gonna write down what we already know that we have to do.
Right. Well, that's part of the plan. I mean, it's like if we don't have it in there, then we need a new plan to plug that stuff into for it to work. So do we plug it into the one that we already have a framework built for, or do we go back to the drawing board and do our own, or just say?
Yeah, I guess that's what
yeah, I mean, I think I've given you guys as much information as I can. I mean, is there anything else you got? I mean.
I think it would help the school district too, to be able to have the demographics and the numbers as a community, as a school district.
Well, the way the school district spends money, I'm sure they
Right,
can find another
but
way to
this,
get
we
that.
have to play nice with our neighbors too.
I understand that. I'm willing to work with all of our neighbors. I mean,
But
we're
this would
linked
help
with
to
Long
do
Swamp
that.
and Rockland and District to purchase the paver, and then we work with that, you know, and that's working out fantastic. And that has nothing to do with the county coming here and charging us $11,000 to tell us that's a good idea.
Have you spoken to Rockland and
I've not had a chance to speak to him about this,
District?
but
maybe as a council, you have communications with the other council members in those, and see where their perspective is and how their thoughts are on it.
I do, but that's.
Have
where-
you done that yet?
No, I haven't, but that's where,
But you've known about this for a month and a half.
there's a lot on the plate.
I understand that, but if
Okay,
you want
and
this as a budget item,
It is
and-
already a budget item.
right, but to approve it, we're trying to get a letter of intent from you, correct?
There's a difference between it being a budget item though, and actually joining up with the whole program. We
Right.
can have the money set aside if that decision is made, that council would like to move forward with the joint plan as presented by the planning commission of Berks County, but
Correct.
we have
So-
time to do that.
We have until December 13th to make a decision on what direction we're
That's what
planning
they
on
like,
going. You have
they're
to,
selling us something,
correct, but Rockland and District are also included in this,
right?
and Long Swamp potentially. So,
So if I say I want more time than December 13th, this
Fine,
is
then
out
we'll-
then?
yes, because then everybody shoots for doing and trying to get we're wasting people's time. If they're writing to get a grant for the spring, when your intention is not to play until fall potentially. So in December 13th, you have to have a game plan.
You'd like one.
I would
And
like
if we
one.
come to that, then we
No,
come to
just
that.
just say whether you want to make a contingent. That's fine, then we can postpone it till when we can finally get that grant money.
So how do you say it's contingent upon the product produced?
You just write it in your letter of intent that we
Right,
initially.
it really comes down to Borough Council deciding at this point in time. I mean, how many more options do we have? I mean,
We don't know, Leo. We haven't done any exploration.
you can muddle through and have a plan, not to have a plan. You can have a consultant write you a plan, or you can delay the process, or you can commit to the process. Those are your four.
Right, but all four of those things have different data to back them up, different feelings to back them up, different thoughts to going forward after from that point.
So you have to start thinking about it, and our deadline to have a game plan, an idea of the way forward, it would be December 13th.
Right.
So that's what we're shooting for. You guys to figure out how you intend to proceed by December 13th.
Gotcha.
My understanding of what they came up with in the existing joint comprehensive plan is they asked the communities what was important to them. They asked a number of questions, and I wasn't asked any of those questions, but maybe somebody was. And they summarized that the other three entities like their rural nature and they like things just the way they are right now. So based on that, since Topton has already commercial and industrial, Topton should have it all, including some agricultural land at the northwest corner or the north corner. That could be used for commercial. They're recommending that so that the other three can stay without having to have any of that. And personally, I think we have enough industrial. I don't want more industrial, actually. So, but that's the plan, and we're sort of outweighed three of them to one of us.
So
That's
that
exactly how it
helps
works.
for the warehouse situation and everything. So we don't have to allocate space in those rural areas around us, which will create more burden on our streets going to those warehouses that they will build in Long Swamp, say, or, do you know what I'm saying? So if we have the industrial, that won't be built up possibly around us. So we can keep the agriculture and our roads can be saved in that respect too, potentially, like just throwing ideas out there.
There is some limitation on development that can be put on you because of the sewer and the water. There is a structural limitation that can be done. And to actually push new of that here would require a 537 plan update, which is a completely different monster. So there is a balancing point that goes on in those that gives you that ability. You've got a 537 plan that allocates all your sewer capacity. And that you can't suddenly come up with, oh, you're gonna do all this more development. It doesn't, without having a revision to that 537 plan. So there is a boundary that is there that you can't be forced to take on additional. It's a common thing that we deal with from a planning side. It's a give take. So in several of the places that we're serving one way or the other, they wish to do a comp plan They can't finish the comp plan now because their comp plan decisions, and these were just in townships, required they were gonna reallocate where they had development. Well, that meant that their 537 plan, their sewer plan, was no longer accurate. You gotta get the 537 plan to be accurate before you can suddenly change the zoning stuff, or you get everybody mad at you. So there are, like I said, there's limits that you have to stop somebody from doing something to you, for instance. And I don't think that's generally not the goal. The goal is to work through, but that is the exclusionary stuff, is that if you've got the industry, one of the benefits for the surrounding area is you've already got it. So that credit for the whole area is the stuff you've already got. You have no big, really warehouse-sized pieces of property sitting in the borough. Nobody can magically come in and go, oh, we're gonna put a 1 million square foot warehouse in. There's no space for it. So since you have some of that land that's already locked up, by being in the, you get to protect the farm fields around you.
Yeah.
And that's where you can help out those folks. And then if they've got other things in them that you don't want, additional development in some other way, that can help you by not having to worry about that, especially as new things come along in the zoning world.
I don't know how we would get additional development. We don't have land.
We
Instead
don't,
of giving up.
but Long Swamp does.
Well, there is density versus,
And you have to
density is
realize-
one of the things you defend against.
We're both out, basically.
The regional plan would probably look at, and I know Long Swamp doesn't necessarily want to have any development foisted on them, but reality is reality. Populations grow, populations decrease. If there is available land based off of the, you know, the status of the, say, agricultural land or something like that in Long Swamp, then chances are they may get development driven towards them anyways. Well, if that's the case, you know, do we plan to have it in the middle of Long Swamp where it's a lot harder? Do we move it closer to Topton where we can service them? Those are the elements that the regional plan is gonna cover. And it will.
If Long Swamp joins up though.
If they join up.
Because let's be honest, nobody's looking to build major stuff up on the top of the hill.
Doubt it.
It's just from a logistics standpoint,
Right.
It's not the best land to buy.
Sure. But and they have a lot of recreational, commercial stuff that they probably wanna protect with the mountain, right? So.
No, I understand that the benefits that Rockland District have been seeing from it. Is there anything else, does anybody have any questions?
To me, it makes a big difference whether Long Swamp is gonna be part of it or not, because we're completely surrounded by Long Swamp.
It does.
Like, for instance, if it would help us with the well thing, but will it help us with the well thing if Long Swamp's not part of it? Probably not. So it has less value from, I mean, how much value does it have?
I'll be honest,
I don't know,
I don't see much value to us other than
I
the
know.
grant thing,
I
you
know.
know? The Rockland and District see much more value out of this than we
Sure.
do. So it really is, I'm looking at it as like, it's a pay to play, or can we pull this off ourselves?
Well, that's the big question. Is the dollars, I mean.
Yeah.
Didn't kind of say that before.
Mhm.
And if we can make it contingent on.
Well, like I said, it's in the budget for now, we don't have to decide
We
tonight.
we do have a meeting prior to the 13th, so.
That's all we're asking, is for to have something to go with them, some idea on the 13th.
On the 13th.
The letter of intent.
Maybe we should have a discussion with Long Swamp and find out
Yeah.
what they did, how much did it cost them, or how interested are they in
What
doing
about
this,
everybody else?
you know, and
Yeah.
we need to have that conversation with them, just to get an idea of, if we need something in place to get grants, we're gonna have something in place, so. Personally, I don't have time to talk to them though, so I don't know about anybody else.
I'll reach out to them, see what we'll discuss. Do you guys have anything else? Then, yeah, if there's nothing else, oh, Randy.
Yeah, I just wanna, I'm actually here to talk on behalf of the fire department. So, we took
I
the.
thought you were staying that whole time.
No, it's no
Didn't
big
we
deal.
talk about the stuff?
No, it's no big deal. So I just wanna let everybody know that we took delivery of our new utility truck this week. It's F Ford 350, you know, it's got a big cab on the back, got a big box on the back. What we use that truck for is we go on a lot of medical calls. Since, you know, Monica was stating the ambulance is so busy, we do a lot of medical work at our station. So all our medical supplies will be put in that truck. We use it for traffic control. The other week when we had all the streets closed on the east end of town, we would go around with that. We also use it for what we call non-emergencies, like a tree down, a wire down that's not arcing. You know, instead of using the big pieces of apparatus, this small pickup truck is taking its place of big apparatus. You will see that we asked you for money out of our tax account. We did that with all 3 municipalities. Everybody gave $35,000. And the fire company paid like $25,000 out of our fundraising account. So the truck is paid, we're debt free yet, but that is where we stand with that.
Awesome.
So,
But you guys will see some sort of savings out of that, right? With not having to bring the big rig out.
oh, absolutely.
Just
I mean,
fuel.
anytime you don't have to drive those big trucks somewhere,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, and you can get it around.
Yeah.
And like I said, with the ambulance running 3 units now, running Kutztown with the college, we have run more medical calls in the last month than, you know, so we pack that thing tight. We can administer all kinds of medicines, you know.
Awesome.
So that's what, we just took delivery of it. It was at the Letterer out in Maxatawny this week, last week. It's going for radios and lights, hopefully this week. So, and what Dale was saying about the radios and everything, our radio bill is $15,000. I mean, that's just crazy to even think about lights and radios. But you put red lights on a vehicle, it costs you 3 times what a
I'm
regular
telling
truck
you,
costs.
they charge you more. I say this about the municipality stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I can buy something on $80 myself for Amazon, that same thing
Yeah.
for municipality, $645 for whatever reason.
And other than that $35,000, I don't think that we're gonna be taking a lot of money out of that account, only due to the fact that probably within 3 years, we're gonna be looking to purchase a ladder truck. Because ours is gonna be 30 years old. And that's gonna be like 1.6 million right now. So that's a really big expense to take on, but we're looking to put a good chunk of money down payment on that thing if we can serve and do our homework. But, and to answer your question about meters, I just got the list from Trinda Friday, and I think, by the way it looks, I'm below 10 meters in the borough. That,
Oh, wow.
and like 3 of those people are really getting close to a shut off because I've give them notices and they just don't reply.
Gotcha.
So, but I think I'm below 10.
Nice.
So that's where I think I'm at with that.
Cool.
And then we have a little plan in place that we're gonna start. Like Hall Street has 3 manual reads. So if we go and do those 3 manual reads, we don't even have to go on Hall Street anymore. It'll just read to the computer. I think Keller Street has 2. You know, out at the very end, I think we have 2 manual reads. If we do those 2 meters, we just drive by and keep right on going. So we're getting a little plan in place for all that. So,
Good. Awesome.
okay, that's all we got.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
So then, you might want to
Yes.
Make motion to adjourn?
Thank you, everybody.
We have them on every even the big ones. Even the big ones.
How do you know that?
I had dogs. Yes, I had dogs,
They think, you know, he was out here in the chair, he just sat there, he just would be able to do whatever. They come in, maybe they tell you what they want. I think a lot of the kids chose to just stand next to
Yeah, I was trying to get it
right
Only if you cry, guys. Only if you. And nobody got slaughtered.
I'm thinking this guy